Okay, hello to you all. We will start our Monday night class. Please join palms and bow. The four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Please, if you don't do this already, do these vows every day, whether it's in the evening or in the morning. It's very important to do them and do them sincerely. They're very powerful, and they set a course for your practice for the day, especially if you do them in the morning. We're going to continue talking about the patriarchs, and we're down to Daoxin. His full name is Dayi Daoxin. The Dayi was given to him as a title from the emperor that was alive at the time that he had passed away, and it means great healer. And so this is a very important thing to talk about someone that is a great healer. When I was beginning to become involved in Buddhism, I had been involved before as a Qigong practitioner, and I was learning from many different Qigong masters, but the one master that I learned from was actually a great physical healer, very incredible in terms of what he could do. But as I was transitioning, I realized that I was a different kind of healer. I was a healer not of samsara and of bodies, but the healer of mind. And that was where my calling was. So everything up until that point in time in my life was one where I was striving to find out what this was all about. When I met Master Sheng, I realized that what was I needed was this wisdom, and this was a wisdom beyond the wisdom of a samsaric individual. It was a transcendental wisdom, a deep wisdom that comes from not only knowing how mind works, but how and why and the consequences of using mind. This is very, very important. We don't understand this. We really don't. And the Qigong masters that I practiced with, even though one that my primary one was a Buddhist, it's still the deep prajna, the deep wisdom had escaped him. And it was something that I knew that it was as if you were playing a music with him, but then you realize there's a few notes that are missing here. And so I didn't know what those were. But as I began to practice Buddhism and following Master Sheng, then I realized it was this wisdom. But this wisdom that you're listening to is a very special wisdom. It's not the wisdom of samsara. It's the wisdom of liberation. It's the wisdom of mind. And we begin to understand that we are all connected, and that we're connected by mind, not by body, not by the community of a bunch of bodies, but by mind. Don't ever forget that. That's very, very important. You should not ever think that we're together and linked by the bodies. Everything ultimately is an illusion, a dream. But what we do with this dream, how we do in the dream, we must understand that it is mind that is functioning. And When we say don't let yourself down, don't let your self nature down. This is very, very important. If we do not practice with this outlook, then all we can do is become a very good samsaric individual. We will pet dogs, you know, and be nice to people and smile. But there's so much more to this liberation, to become liberated from the suffering is very important. It doesn't mean that if we have a liberation of the suffering, this body does not feel pain or discomfort or experiences death or has people that experience death. The difference is that it is all mind. We understand that, but we've got to push beyond the idea of an individual self or a sentient being. Many of you still don't understand this. Some of you are getting there. Little by little, you keep pushing it and questioning. Some of you are just new to this and you question. And that's so good. I'm so happy to see that, where people are questioning. And they're going, when they hear the answer, sometimes they say, that was a foolish question that I did. No, there's no such thing as a foolish question. It is the fool that doesn't question. This is important. All of you, from the very beginners to those who are been doing this for a long time, you have to always question. Don't think that you got it. Don't think that I have the answer for you. You have to have this incredible thirst for this knowing beyond knowing beyond the individual illusory self. And this is important. If you just begin to quote things from the sutras and quote things from me, but just carrying it around, but you don't really know what to do with it, it won't work this way. This is why the patriarchs were setting out. And when I mention the patriarchs, what I mention is collectively all of the wise people from that time period, those generations, passing this on, preserving this, so that we would have this kind of a record of who started this, and trying to put it into some order, even if the order isn't necessarily historically precise, but at least what they're doing is they're setting the primer for Buddha Dharma. And that's important, because if you argued with a historian, it would be hard to argue with them about the exactness of different things and how one person said this and another person said that. That is not the way we approach it. We understand that. We understand historically all of that. And I teach that to you or present that to you simply so that you are well informed. But what is really the essence of the presentation that the patriarchs represent is this one mind, and how the Dharma, how the study of the sutras, and how all of this is necessary in order for us, if we want to meditate, then it has to be there. If we don't understand it and we're sitting on a cushion, you're only going to make your bottom flat, but you're not going to be able to do things. But if you do it in the right way, it works. And Daoxin was at the cusp of now beginning to show how to meditate, how to practice. We heard from Bodhidharma, in terms of Hueka, a Sessan was experiencing it. Now there's more of a primer with Daoxin. Now, we still don't know a lot about Daoxin, but we know a heck of a lot more than the first three patriarchs. But primarily, again, this what we know about Daoxin comes from, as we had mentioned it before, one of them was the further biographies of the eminent monks. And that was from Daoxin was the biographer of these. And so putting them all in, then Daoxin came to be the fourth patriarch. And so that was in his biographies, which came in the late 7th century. And then also the annals of the transmission of the Dharma treasure. And this was came around the early 8th century, 712. And then there was another one, the Compendium of the Five Lamps, which came in the 13th century. So these are the compendiums and the biographies where we get our most of our information about these masters, and they in turn, each one kind of organized and stacked them up and showed something, polished them, and created this link from one to another to give us something to do that. Now, did they say the words that you read? In preparing for this and just going to the one where now we're dealing with Sasan talking to Daoxin, I've probably read 5 different ways that was said. And some people, they really get caught up on which is the right one. How do I know? All I know is that if you study with your heart, it is the message that you give from the heart that gives life to that. You are not going to be able to look at it and say, oh, this is the correct one. This is the best one. I don't care whether it's Chinese, Sanskrit, or whatever. It's all been written down, as somebody's take on it, somebody's impression on it. And what we do as with the ancestors' passages is we pass on. We don't pass on the writing. What we pass on is the heart, the spirit of Chan. And that's important. There was a story once of one master, and he was going to give his student everything. It was his only disciple. And so he had all these scrolls, and he said, here is the sum total of our school's knowledge. Guard it very carefully. And the disciple took all the scrolls and he threw them in the fireplace. And the master was screaming, "What are you doing?" And the disciple said, "What are you saying?" This is important for us. Please remember this. This is important. We don't carry this forward from my words or Shifu's words or Shifu's lectures or my lectures. If you can only get that, you only get the skin of the Dharma of Chan. But if you understand mine, this is what I want to pass to you. This is the bone marrow of Chan. But you have to sincerely practice to get that. These masters and the way in which all of this in terms of the Chan school brings in everything, it's important for us to know that, because this method was bringing all sorts of different schools in. And here with Daoxin, for instance, he was studying actually under a great Tian Tai master, Tian Tai meaning like the highest heaven. And so he was studying, and the Tian Tai was coming out of the production of the Yogacara school, the Lanka Vitara, the Lotus Sutra, the Prajnaparamitas, also the Madhyamika school. All of these are pouring in, and and it shows the relationship with all the schools, or whether it's the Huayan school of studying with the Abhatamsaka Sutra. We have all of these things pouring right directly into Chan. So was Daoxin a Tian Tai master, or was he a Chan master? It doesn't really matter. What mattered was is that he was doing. I'm sure at that time, if they asked him, "Are you a Chan master?" he'd say, "What is that? I've never heard of the word before. I know dhyana, so if I practice, I suppose so." But all of this came after the fact, as we began to stack all of these masters and create an order to this succession, because they wanted to establish a succession all the way up from the Buddha through them. And also the Tian Tai were doing their kind of doing that as well. It's okay. The thing is that when I was young and really stupid and ignorant about practice, I thought Tian Tai was a whole separate school that was almost nearing blasphemy, but it wasn't in this way. They took it, and you could say they intellectualized it to the maximum, and really trying to squeeze out all that they could get out of it. Where Chan was saying, okay, we establish this as our foundation so that we can now begin to practice in a proper way. And without that foundation, when you sit to meditate, you're not going to really get a great experience or realization. You may learn how to calm your mind, develop samadhi, but the samadhi that you develop is not going to lead to the vipassana side, this insight, this tremendous wisdom. You will have worldly wisdom, but you will not be able to have the realizations of experiencing mind itself. And this is what Daoxin was bringing to the table here. And I'm kind of way off of my my lecture for the day, but I thought that this is important, because if we don't do this, and if we don't speak in this way and make it contemporaneous, then what good is it? And so the heart is in this way where we present things so that we can see exactly, try to touch all of you. I see you all on the screen, and I want to touch you all, and to really try to bring you all along and to say something meaningful. It's not, to come and to listen to me. I really try very hard to say something that will move your practice forward. It's important every single time. If not, then I could just sit there and say, what am I going to talk about? Oh, well, I'll just talk about this. You know me, I could talk for hours on any of these subjects, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't touch your heart, and that's what's important. Okay, so Daoxin was circa 580 to 651 CE. Get through some of his biography, and then we'll get to the other part. He was connected with what they called the East Mountain teachings of the northern part. And at the time, Buddhists were very heavily persecuted. And so he was kind of laying low. But one of the things that he did that the other three before him didn't do was establish a home ground, a home base, a monastery. So he was able to bring about a group of 500 monks, which prior to that was kind of unheard of, but because eventually they enjoyed the protection of the emperor, then they were able to cultivate and move forward with this. But something that was very interesting that happened in terms of this is that they began to abandon the practice of going door to door to beg for their food. And because can you imagine if you're in a town and you have 500 monks and they send them all out essentially trick-or-treating at all the houses, you'd run out of food very, very quickly. So they figured out, well, hey, we got to work. We gotta cultivate fields and put that into the practice. So then they say the practice is you have to work and do this, and this is part of it. And so they were no longer relying on people in terms of course, people would give them things, but for their subsistence, they had to have make their own food, and that was important. So this was a change here from Daoxin, where there was less reliance on the community to support them for their subsistence, perhaps to build temples and things of that nature, because they're not making money on this, but but as to them eating, it was different because of the situation now changed. I want to switch to this book, and it's just this is again, this is the mind of Chinese Chan. It's an old book, and it's very basic, but it's good. And the person who wrote it, Yi Wu, was very good in the manner in which he did it. He was very patient and clear about what he was writing. But in the case 4, it's Daoxin seeking liberation, and this is found everywhere because they were part of the compendiums and the biographies of the eminent monks and the lamp, all of those things. They say that, and then as it's getting translated from this place to another place to another, then the words change a little bit. Oh, I didn't even know that book was even in print, but it's not bad if you can get one. My book I've been using it for so many years, it's kind of fallen apart, but that's what we have tape for. So in this case 4, it says, at the age of 14, Daoxin bowed to Sensan and requested acceptance as a disciple. He said, I wish you to be compassionate and teach me the Dharma door of liberation. And so it's interesting because he's saying, teach me the Dharma door of liberation. So already Daoxin knows he cannot teach him things, but the only way he can do it is direct Daoxin's mind to mind. So he says, who has confined you? So there's so many different ways that this is said, who chains you, who shackled you, whatever. Daoxin answered, after contemplating for a while, he said, nobody binds me. No one has, or here it says, nobody sets bonds on me. Sasang said, in that case, why do you still seek for liberation? Hearing this, Daoxin was enlightened. Was he really? Probably not. I mean, unless he had very, very deep roots. But what they're saying is they're pointing to the way to enlightenment is to investigate mind. And this is important. So you see this common vein through the first 4 patriarchs of investigating mind, investigating and seeing who's binding you. It's pregnant with the idea that there is no self, and there's no other selves that are binding you as well. So when one realizes this, truly realizes this, there's liberation. Now that liberation may only last a few minutes, or it could last months, or it could last a lifetime. But it's there, and you won't forget that. But it's not something that you can say it's this color, it's this big, it has this sound. There's all of these lights, 10 billion angels come and lift you into the firmament. whatever you want to conceptualize about it, it is actually ordinary and mundane. It's very incredible. And then you go like, what do you mean ordinary, mundane? Then why am I doing this if it's just ordinary and mundane? You know, I don't get like a big prize, you know, like winning the lotto or anything. It's just this way. You say, well, why is it so ordinary and mundane? Because what it does, it demystifies life. It demystifies samsara. And you go, okay, you know, I can hold this cup, I can tap on it, I can see it's there. But in my heart, mine, the heart of mine, I know that this is not really real. And it's difficult for us to do that. But in a dream, sometimes have you ever had a dream and then you tell people, oh my gosh, my dream, it was so real. Do you ever say that to anybody? My dream was so real, I couldn't believe it. You should say that about this place. This dream is a doozy, and it goes on, and it's just like some of those cheap novels. They just keep coming on like Netflix, 8th season, you know, the 50th season, whatever it is of this life. You just keep going and going and going. And as long as you have interest in it, it keeps playing. That's wisdom. So the thing is we begin to detach from the world, yet the straddling there of a bodhisattva is detaching from the sensations and cravings and desires and aversions, but still are engaged in samsara. And that's a trick, because you could go to the Western Pure Land, and so you're there and they're going, where are you going? Oh, I'm going back to samsara. Oh, don't go there. If you go there, you could get trapped. No, a few people went back and they haven't come back here. And so we have to look at things and see, hold on a second here. Give me 1 second. I just went into battery saver mode. My screen started to dim. See, it came back to life. But what I'm telling you is so that you begin to break down the idea that you're here to be a better person. You're here as a life raft, as somebody carrying those morning boards at a retreat. Bang, 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 waking people up. And what do you do when, how many of you gone to a retreat and you hear the clank that they're doing? Oh, and you just go, oh no, I don't want to wake up. Can't you just postpone this for a couple of hours? And this is what you do here. You go around hitting the morning boards that people don't want to hear. They go, you know, I'm okay, really. I mean, we just clean the place up a little bit. No, this place is a dream. You can't clean. No, we'll just clean it up, and we'll do that. And you say, but you don't exist. No, don't tell me I don't exist. And that's the way people practice. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to talk to you guys sometimes. Not you guys. I'm not like criticizing you in that way, but I'm talking about in general, especially people that have heard the right view and still ignore it. It's difficult. This is why they set this all out in terms of these patriarchs. And so this is part of Daoxin on his essay, Expedient Means of Entering the Way and Putting the Mind to Rest. So this is from the records of the patriarchs of the Lanka Vitara, because remember, they were bringing the Lanka Vitara on for a while. That was the representative sutra that was the go-to sutra. But then as more sutras came in, then they said, this one's a good one too, and this one's a good one. But it says, there is no Buddha apart from the mind, and no mind apart from the Buddha. Reciting the name of the Buddha is reciting mind. This is very, very, very powerful. Very powerful. Reciting the name of the Buddha is reciting mind. You just come back every time. Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo. And you just keep mind within mind. It's very, very important in your practice to do things in this way. And so seeking the mind is seeking Buddha. So this is important. We don't seek the Buddha. Like, where's the Buddha? Where's the Buddha? We seek mind. We investigate mind. We cultivate mind. We contemplate mind. And therein lies the Buddha. If you know the principle that consciousness is without identity and Buddha is without form, and also Buddha has no image, your mind will be at rest. And right there, it's touched upon different sutras just at that point, from the Prajnaparamita Sutras to the Diamond Sutra that's there. And even the Yogacara school is represented just in that one little sentence there, that the consciousness is without identity. So there's no it's just this mind only in terms of how we look at this. And the difference is that people don't understand what that means, mind only. It is just everything is mind. And when it's saying that if you know the principle of consciousness without identity and the Buddha is without form, as in the Diamond Sutra, and the Buddha has no images, just like in the Diamond Sutra, he cannot be known by his 32 marks, your mind will be at rest. Why? Because everywhere you look, you see mind. You see the functions of mind, the machinations of mind, and how it works. Our thing is we have so much trouble. We go, well, if this is the Buddha mind, why are there so many people dying? There's always people dying. There's always people being born. And we switched our attention now from COVID to Ukraine. But all of these things, they're happening, they're part of mind in accordance with Pratika Samappada. Doesn't mean that I say, oh, that can all happen. No, the whole purpose is to understand these things happen in this illusory world because of the attachments to the idea of an individual self or a collective self, such as a country or whatever we have. When we don't see that correctly, then we don't know how to solve the problem. It's good for you to send clothes or send money and to do all these things. But the longer term resolution is to pass on the Dharma to others so that people can make wise choices in their life. If Putin, well, I shouldn't mention anybody. If there's a dictator in the world who doesn't understand that because he makes a phone call and 1,000 people die because of his decision to do something that is not necessary, if he knew what would happen next in this dream, because maybe he passes away in the dream, but all of that karma, collective karma, is going to come back. it's going to be difficult. And if you could see the back end of it, then you would be less likely to act unwisely. But it's difficult for us to understand that. We don't see that. But all of this is what they're trying to present here, and to say, if we understand that, then our mind is clear. We see exactly why things are happening. The reason I say this is because we learn from these lessons of these horrors that are happening. But each day we suffer a horror. You cut your finger, you bang your finger, somebody calls you a name, something fails, whatever it is. All of these things are little cuts along the way of life. And some of those cuts cut very, very deep. And you keep them for a long time because you keep the self. And here it's saying, it's mind. Search for mind. Okay. Now, I always feel like I'm like a sprinter running a marathon, and I have to get through the marathon. I just wish I could pass on to you all the stuff that I read, but I just have to give you kind of like the greatest hits of what I was reading and studying. But let's start with his practice of meditation. And he says, so this was an excerpt from the Dungam caves, where they found this little passage from Daoxin, and so this was recently discovered. I mean, when I say recently, is within the last century. And so he says, the method of abandoning the body consists first in meditating on emptiness. So we start with this, and we say, if we want to abandon the body, what he means by abandoning the body is abandoning the notion that there's a life and being, a personality, or an ego that's sitting there. You cannot do well in meditation if you have these notions in your mind. I am sitting. How long have I been sitting? What are they going to have for breakfast today? My leg hurts, whatever, all the different things that come up. If you sit with the notion of emptiness and you go, well, that's easy for you to say. And I can say it very easily, emptiness, but I have no idea what emptiness is. But emptiness knows you. It is not the emptiness that what we try to seek that has nothing happening. Emptiness is actually the Buddha mind. It's dynamic. It's connected to everything. But we don't know that. We can't do that. If we tried to plug in to that, it would be like me trying to plug in my computer into the power of the mind. It would blow my computer apart because it's too much information. But the only way we can access that information is by not moving, being quiet. So when we sit in emptiness. Don't do anything. There's nothing for you to do, nothing for you to think, nothing for you to perceive. Just rest the mind in this awareness. You're not going into a dark cave. You're practicing the awareness of the mind. The mind becomes so aware that you can hear a little bug walking on the floor. It becomes that aware. One day you will realize this. You can, but that doesn't interfere at all with it unless you went, oh, look, and you started wanting to look at the bug. But if you do this in the right way, to resting the mind in this emptiness, it leads to a good practice. So then he says, whereby the conscious mind is empty. So what he's saying is he's kind of like fudging the word conscious and saying we empty it. We don't empty it of thought, we empty it of attachment. So everything that is there that I was talking, or I was communicating with people on my mind work forum and asking about the perception of the Buddha mind. And the perception of the Buddha mind is that it is knowing without knowing everything. I mean, the real Buddha mind, without the Buddha, is knows everything, feels everything, senses everything. It uses all the perceptions of the sentient beings, all the perceptions of the gods, hell dwellers, you name it. All perceptions are available and accessible to the mind, including its instantaneous own knowing of mind. We're not trying to find the way to have a mind that we perfect the mind. I was giving a lecture at a retreat. Some of you might have been there, and I was mentioning that we don't try to build a stairway to heaven. When we practice from samsara and we try to suppress our thoughts, suppress our attachments, and try to be good, polish ourselves up, comb our hair, be nice, smile, we're trying to build the stairway to heaven. And exactly how many steps does it take to get there? And what do I tell you? Jump into the void. Just free fall into the void. But nobody wants to take me up on that. So I'm sitting there waiting for that to happen. And it will happen eventually. And some of you go in and then you pop right out. Ooh, it's too cold in there. Whatever it is, you get you're afraid. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of losing yourself. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So then it says, let the mind together with its world be quieted down to a perfect state of tranquility. Let thought be cast in the mystery of quietude, so that the mind is kept from wandering from one thing to another. Here we go again. What is the mystery of quietude? So if I said that to you and I say, okay, here's a secret, just let the mind just rest, and any thoughts come up, they're in the mystery of quietude. And you go, okay, that sounds like pretty cool, like something that you'd say in the 60s. But what does it really mean, this mystery of quietude? Take a shot at it. Any of you, what do you think that means, the mystery of quietude? I'll read the whole thing again. Let's see. Let the thought be cast in the mystery of quietude, so the mind is kept from wandering from one thing to another. Anybody want to take a crack at what it means by the mystery of quietude? All right, Mark, go ahead.
The thoughts are empty.
Why? I mean, what's the mystery to that?
They don't exist. It's all in the mind, and the mind is empty.
Okay. So I would give you a very good A for effort in taking it. So that's you're going in the right direction. Absolutely. Okay. Yao Ming.
Yangming. Thank you. I think quietude means to quieten our mind in meditation, but not just stopping there. I mean, it is also the mystery involved investigation. So we don't just quieten, but we keep asking questions and investigate. What is at the end of the tunnel? Who am I? And things like that.
Okay, thank you. Ruth Marie?
Sorry. Non-attachment?
Go ahead. Non-attachment.
Not being attached to anything, just resting. Not allowing yourself to be attached to any thoughts or anything.
That would be the mystery of quietude, is non-attachment. Anybody else? This is what I would do when I used to have real small groups in Riverside, and we could just all sit around. And I love that kind of exchange with people. We don't do that very often, but I think it's important. Are you up, VJ, or are you just kind of lingering around there? I saw you move up one square. That's why I was asking.
I was just wondering if it's the if it's the luminosity of that quietude, is the natural luminosity when in that quiet state.
Where would that luminosity come from?
From mind within. It's that's the whole search, I believe.
Like shining like a lantern from within, like, so you'd be like a pumpkin. It's okay, because it's all right. You know, what you're doing, it's important. It's important you to ask the questions, and for me to ask a probing question, follow-up questions to that, so that you begin to understand. All of this is everything is a correct answer, because the answers are ones that are investigating, and that's important. Okay. Michael.
Yeah, so similar to what Vijay said. So I would say it's a contemplation. It denotes the proper contemplation and the perception of the Buddha mind, which is the mysterious part here.
All right. And then Eon.
So it's mysterious quietude, because for it to be a disturbance, there has to be things that are set against itself. So there has to be quiet, and then something that shatters that quiet. But the mysterious quietude of the mind is just that everything is mind. Everything's created by the mind, so that even those thoughts that appear, anything that arises within mind doesn't actually disturb mind.
All right. Lewis.
I think it's not like in the words, but it's kind of as an analogy. It's like we're a tree, part of a tree, but we're all the flowers on that tree, and we all don't know that we're attached to that tree. We're all separate, but the joint is not through a tree. It is through mind. It's how the connection is, and because I don't think it's not in the words. It's not in the words, and I haven't got the words to describe it other than to say the connection is through the mind, but we're all there.
Okay, let's play America's Got Talent. And Santha, who was the one that was the closest to, that you think was to the answer?
Ian.
Why?
So that the quietude is the functioning of the mind. The mystery of the quietude is a functioning of the mind.
It's all created by the mind, and it's difficult. So when we see that, what he's espousing is this non-duality, and so it's something that's there. So it's kind of like the one master that said one you gets the skin, one you gets the meat, you know, one gets the bone and the marrow. And so it is this kind of a search. But you know, Ian's been studying for a while, as Santha and Michael, and you know, and it reflects your level of understanding, of knowing, of mind. And that's important. I thank you all for contributing, because it's important for us to see this and important for us to do that in terms of kind of the analysis that we look at, so that you can penetrate what the master is saying. So don't just stop when it says mysterious quietude and go on to the next thing. And you go, wait a minute, what does he mean by that? Because this little nugget right here, and I mean, I've got pages on him, but we don't need to go to the next page or the next line until we understand this part. And if we have this kind of a mysterious quietude, why is it mysterious? It cannot be known by the ego. It is just known by mind itself without calling it itself. It is just mind. And that's the mysterious part, because if you try to look for it, it can't be there, but it's there all the time. And you go, how can it be all there? I can't see it. Because you're looking from samsara. If you look from the mind side, it's there all the time. Shifu used to say, you're swimming in it all the time, all the time. You're just swimming in it, swimming in it. No, you never see it. It's all around you. It is this. Okay. Anybody want to make a last comment before I move on? Okay. We'll continue on. When the mind is tranquilized in its deepest abode, its entanglements are cut asunder. The mind in its absolute purity is like the void itself. Oh, there's that word you guys hate to hear, the void. So let me read that to you again, because this is pretty deep stuff. I mean, Daoxin was really getting right to it. You know, he was no longer talking about, there, I set you free from your liberation. He's going deep, deep now. So it says, when the mind is tranquilized in its deepest abode. So what this deepest abode that he's talking about is exactly, where is this abode? Anybody know? Bonus points if you can get it within the next 20 seconds. The deepest abode. Okay, we'll let Ruth go first. Go for it, Ruth.
Mind.
Mine? Okay. Ian.
It's Manjushri's abode.
Which is where?
The non-abiding.
Yeah, non-abiding. So the two of you are correct. Ian explains it a little bit more clear in terms of that, but you're both correct. It's in mind, but the abode of mind is everywhere. There's no place it doesn't touch. It's impossible for that. And so it is, because it doesn't attach to anything, it is quiet, it's free. We cannot know that with the self. That's impossible for us to do that. So as we begin to look at that, then we use these lessons from Manjushri Wenchokusa, and we begin to understand, oh, it's starting to fit. So the pieces begin to fit in. So that's good. Okay. And then it says, the entanglements are cut asunder. So here, the entanglements, all the attachments, everything that's there, when one is not abiding in anything, including your ego and your idea of your personal value in society and personal weight and importance in society, when all of those things are not connected to you, then you're free. And there's no entanglements there. And so that's important. And just a real quick story. And by the way, Daoxin's going to get an extra session next week because this is pretty good stuff that's coming out. There once a young man went to Shifu and he said, Shifu, he goes, I want to tell you that I'm enlightened. And Shifu said, wow, really? And he goes, how do you know? He goes, I know I'm enlightened. And he says, does it feel very heavy? And when you see things, or does it feel light? Does it feel like spread out? And he keeps asking him all these questions. And the young man finally said, Shifu, you ask these questions of me, and you are asking them as if I wasn't enlightened. And Shifu said, well, an enlightened person wouldn't act like you. And so, you would think that he's insulting him, but he's saving him a lot of agony down the road. Because if you think that you're enlightened, then you have to go around protecting that impression that you are enlightened. I don't want to carry that kind of a load with me. Can you imagine that, to have that? And then you're there and somebody says, oh, I saw Gilbert picking his nose. An enlightened person doesn't pick their nose, You couldn't do anything. You couldn't even fart because you would reveal that you're human. So the thing is that it isn't in this way. It is letting go of any kind of an attachment. Not easy for us to do because we feel like we're like a fish swimming upstream, but eventually the stream will reverse, just like it did for Shakyamuni Buddha before he became a Buddha. And so then it says, the mind in its absolute purity is like the void itself. In its absolute purity is like the void itself. That's it. The void. What is the void? The void is dynamic. And you go, I have a hard enough time with emptiness, much less the void. And so I think Esther was asking people if they knew what I was talking about the void, and everybody goes, I don't know, beats me. And I go, of course you won't know what the void is. Jump and you'll find out. It's this way. If you can do that, you can experience it in the right way. If you don't, you'll just have this idea of this, conceptions of it, but you'll never be able to get out of samsara because of your self-love, self-conceit, self-centrism. You just love this body so much. And no, but that's just the way it is. And that kind of Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame that we get is so fleeting. We can't hold on to this. You just jump. You go, I don't know how to jump. Jump. You can do it. When you sit to meditate, let go of all thought. It doesn't mean purge your mind. It just means don't attach. Just like what Ian was saying with Manjusri, he's engaging with people all the time. Hui Ning, which we'll get to, he says he has thousands of thoughts a day. But it doesn't mean that they're attaching thoughts. So when we sit, we just sit in meditation in the right way. If we don't sit in this way, we're wasting our time on the cushion. Please don't do that. If you do it in the right way, you can do very well. But sometimes we don't really get the good instruction, and then sometimes we don't follow the instruction. But if you get the good instruction, by all means, please follow it. please follow it, and you will be able to literally penetrate any sutra that you read, understand everything. You can do like what I mentioned to you, to hear the tune from the stringless lute, this tune that plays, and there's a tune. I couldn't even begin to hum it for you, but there's a tune, and you will see that everything plays in that tune of a key of mind. Okay, Mark. Is it a spurious hand or
I'm so, I always, this not only happens here, but at work, I can't click fast enough for the mind.
Okay.
Sorry. Since the lecture this evening and everything that's being shared, and we talk about the mind abiding nowhere, then no mind is what's coming up for me. So everything is mine. You attach to the concept of everything is mine. You accept it. You understand it. The connections through mind. But then there's eventually you have to let that go.
Yes. So when you come to the thing of saying no mind, it's just a realization that even the word mind is a conceptualization. It's not mind as we believe it to be, this consciousness. And I think sometimes when they use the Yogacara school and say it's consciousness only, I don't think that's a correct way of calling it. I think it's a mind only in terms of doing that. And if they think it's consciousness only, I would suggest they change their name to mind only. Or you could call it, the Mark Elsner no mind only school. No. And then where's that parrot? I don't know if the parrot's here today, but he would say that it's the no mind school. So it's, but the thing is it's the same thing, and there is a story about, actually it's in that compendium of Yi Wu, where one master asked a young attendant to go and inquire about his disciple that now started up his own place, and so when the disciple asked the attendant, what is that old man teaching now? And he says, he's teaching no mind. And the disciple just laughed, and he said, when I was there, he was teaching mind. He goes, so to me, it's just mind. And so which is the correct? There's no correct, no nothing. It is because his knowing is beyond the words. And so we can get to the point where we're saying mind, no mind, no mind, it gets, but it's just a severance, but it's just kind of another way of approaching, so that we don't get caught up on mind only. There is no name for mind. It just is this suchness. That's why they talk about the Tathagata, this thusness, or thus come one, or thus gone one, because if they say, well, where did he come from? Well, he just left right now, so you can't ask him. And so it's in this way. But yeah, those are the things that are you have to kind of play with. And so you're doing it in the right way of kind of playing with it, and then you'll come full circle back to mind. But it's all right. It's okay. I mean, you are contemplating, and that's what's important. All right. I think I went too far with the lecture today. I didn't get far enough, but we'll come back to him because he has a lot of good stuff. What I want to do with Daoxin is to show you how to meditate with right view. And in order to do that, as I have to present right view in a way in which you can begin to work with it, and then you can sit with it, and it makes a big difference in how you can meditate. But if you do it right, it just really expedites your meditation. You would know it right away. There's a difference. There's a samadhi that comes that is very clear, and it does not get in the way of the arising of vipassana or insight, what in the Chan school is called illumination. And that's important because it's this illumination that's there, and it is the mystery that the awareness is the awareness of that the illumination is there's no place it's not, which is mine. Okay, so I'll open it up to questions. And thank you all for listening. I could tell you guys were listening intently today, so that's good. No questions? No questions. I'll have to bore you with some more lecture. Okay, Michael.
It's related to a comment you said at the beginning about whether we are in a dream, and so this morning I listened to a Theravadan teacher I really like, and he made a comment that it's helpful for if one wants to cultivate lucid dreaming. He said there's a way to train this is to ask yourself sometimes during the day whether this moment right now you are dreaming or whether this is real. So it and if one trains this, it spontaneously comes up at night during a dream. So in a sense, it prompts the mind. And it's just interesting to see his comment coming from the Theravadan sides to how you talked about it today. Just a comment.
Well, it's interesting because in terms of if you practice well, you become aware in your horizontal, let's say, state of dreaming. You are aware that you are in a dream, and you're perfectly aware. You do not lose that awareness one iota, and you can manipulate the dream. So if you want to do anything in your dream, you can do it. Normally, I don't dream, but if a dream comes up, then you can use it. And if, let's say, the monster from underneath the bed comes and tries to take you, you can squish it or make it small or send it away or whatever you want. So that's interesting. The more difficult part of all of this is to know that you're dreaming right at this very moment. And it's not you that's dreaming, it's mind that's dreaming. And that's it. But it isn't bad, in terms of the Theravadan monk to talk about that, because it begins to break down the idea of reality, of what we think is a reality. The reality is that mind is dreaming. That's the apparent reality. It's not real, it's impermanent. And there is no self dreaming. It's just mind. And that is the big takeaway with that. But the takeaway comes with a bonus, which is that one understands that everything is created by the mind. And we begin to do that. But you should, during your day, understand that you're dreaming. It's not easy. So you listen to this Theravadan monk not by accident, but it was by something that kind of cued you to this. Sometimes it's kind of dangerous to mix too many different practices, but in this particular one, you got a good insight to see in terms of this, in terms of that. Simply manipulating dreams would not be realization or enlightenment or anything. We used to do that in Qigong. I mean, if I wanted to go to your dream, I could go to your dream. And you would dream of what I want you to dream about. But that's something that, you know, is useless. But the idea of knowing that this is a dream is important. Okay. Ching Meyer.
Hi, Gilbert.
Hello.
My question may be too elementary, and a lot of you already know, but to me, I don't know. So, what do Buddha mind and the Buddha nature mean? Are they mean this? Do they mean the same thing, or they have some kind of what kind of connection do they have?
They're just a different name, you know. To Mark, it would be no mind. But to us, you know, when we say Buddha nature, what we mean, and this is not a stupid question. This is a good question. The Buddha nature is how mind works. That's why I call this forum the Mind Work Forum, you know, and because it's how mind works. What are the rules of mind? What's the main rule of mind? Anybody know? I shouldn't say main rule, because then you like, oh, that could be a second rule. Pratika Samapada, causes and conditions never fail. So when we see this and we understand that everything's created by the mind, then we understand Pratika Samapada, that everything appears in this dream, such as Michael is now discovering, from the mind itself. But it appears for a reason. And it's just like, the more you come here, the more you practice, you will get the you know, the insights of Sentha and Michael and Ian. You know, these people, they come and they practice and they're serious. You know, we have like Wei Shan Hu and Christoph, you know, they're there, David and Esther, all of them, they're coming, they've been there for a while, and they get it, you know. And forgive me if I left you off the list. I mean, there's so many of you, but I mean, little by little, you begin to see this and you understand, because of Pratika Samapada, you begin to understand the Buddha nature. And the Buddha mind is essentially, this is something I would like you to contemplate. Okay, what is the Buddha mind? You don't contemplate it conceptually. You try to feel it. Don't try to think about it. Just sit quietly, and the Buddha mind will come to you. Don't think about it, and don't think, oh, here it comes. You know, you'll say, oh, well, I was there sitting and I heard this roar like a train coming by and it was swirling. No, that's like a tornado in a mobile home park in Oklahoma. What you want is just to be quiet and just let it come to you. Let mind come to you. It's already there, but there's all this interference that doesn't enable you to see it clearly. But it will come simply because that's what you're using. You're using mind to seek mind. Okay, so you just have to contemplate that. It's a very, very good question, and it gives you an opportunity to try an exercise that I think will help you. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Unkai.
Hi, Gilbert.
Hello.
So when you answered Michael's question, you mentioned just the mind, and you also mentioned it's a dream. So shouldn't it be, if it's just mind, we don't really differentiate it's a dream or not, because it's just mind.
Yes. Later, we just see everything. When I say we, mind just sees mind as mind. This is not easy for us. We come in and out of that, and we come in and out of our ego. When I have an ego, I suffer. I don't care if I'm having a good time, let's say I just ate a piece of lemon meringue pie. That tastes really, really good, right? But when it's finished, then I'm go, isn't there any more? So I suffer. Even the joy can cause suffering because of the attachment to it. See, I graduated from donuts now. But the causes and conditions are because there's a lemon meringue pie in my refrigerator right now. And it has my name on it, unfortunately, which will cause me great suffering. But when you see things, you just see things as mine, but you're aware, even if you can't control it completely, you're still aware of how mind functions. If I ate a lemon meringue pie every day, that would be very bad for my blood sugar and for my weight and for everything else. In fact, it's been sitting there since yesterday, so there's a bit of self-control there with respect to it. Unless I devour it all at one time to make sure that it's out of sight, out of mind, and in the belly. But then it will result in more attachments. So when we see the world this way, we understand how the world works. Even if we're not yet able to control it completely, we still have an idea about this. So that's why they call us practitioners. We can't try to play like we're bodhisattvas, perfect bodhisattvas. That's foolish. And it's hard for us to do that. But we practice in our own ability and in our own accord, which gets better as we practice. The more we practice, it's like playing the piano. When you first play, nobody wants to be around you. But after a while, then you can play very, very well. And so you see that because causes and conditions never fail. It's just like you started, and now you're really practicing sincerely, and your practice is flourishing. It's not by accident. It's not by me, but it's by your understanding how mind works. And that's what's important. When you understand, then that's what you get. When you plant a melon seed, you get a melon fruit. And that's the way it is. It's very, very simple. We make it complicated, but if you look at everything and you just see it as mine, it will help you. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Wendy, did you get your certificate?
I was going to ask about it. No, yes, I received it. I'm just thinking, it's the mind. So if you send it by mind, if I can receive it, it's a matter of mind. But like you said, even if I carry it around in my mind, how do I use it?
Use it well and use it often. Remember, just like I told Kai, the causing conditions never fail. You keep coming here, you keep asking questions, and you're getting better. And wisdom is seeking wisdom. And so when you see that, then you can't be far from it. Little by little, it will be there. Just use it. All the things that I talk about, set it into motion, okay? Bring it to the present moment all the time. Oh, never abandon mind, okay? Never abandon it. Just understand everything works because of causes and conditions. The Buddha mind is exhibited through body, speech, and mind. And it follows the functions that need to be there in the samsaric world in accordance with body, speech, and mind. What you think, what you say, what you do has an impact in the next moment. If you're constantly aware of what you're saying, thinking, and doing, then that little by little, you'll become more and more attuned with mind, and it will come up naturally. You won't have to remind yourself to be in the present moment and see it, because what you're doing is that's your practice field more than sitting on a cushion. You're in the game, and if you can keep your mind steady, then it doesn't matter whether you're sitting on the cushion or you're walking around. The realization will come. And the thing that's funny about it is that you probably won't know it. And you know why? Because you won't have a self to receive the award, and you're there and you go like, I want to thank the Academy for this award. And it was so good and whatever. No, you won't have that. You'll just go, what next can I do? Who can I talk to? What am I going to do? How can I help spread the Dharma? That's what will be on your mind, because that's mine. That's the function of mind. The ultimate, let's say, secret function is wake up these people. They're not real, but there are slumbering Buddhas there. So that's how you practice. Okay. And you keep handing the certificates out, but they have to earn it first, okay? All right. But if you understand what the certificate says, it's correct, because if you hand the certificate to somebody, the certificate says that, let it be known, something along this lines, that the holder of the certificate is possessed of the Buddha mind, right? So if I hand it to Eon, he would go, all right, that sounds good to me. So it doesn't matter who you hand it to. The thing is that person has a Buddha mind. Not bad, huh? The only difference is I just gave you a certificate so you can feel good about it. All right, David.
Oh, thank you, Gilbert. I got kind of taken out of the whole thing early on when you made the comment, go beyond what Gilbert is saying. And as you probably know, I maybe try to parrot everything that you say, and I constantly study and copy your presentations and everything. And to me, that seems to be sort of the last attachment I have to going deeper into the practice.
Yeah, the goal of a student and the goal of a well-known advisor is to let the student stand on their shoulders to reach an even higher level. So when I look at my students, my goal is that may they exceed my understanding, my practice, and contribute more to the world. And this is what's important. It's the sincerity of it. And I give everything I've got to try to get you to do that. And I don't leave anybody behind. People think they give a basic question. Doesn't matter. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So they will get there eventually. And you see the people that are here, and you see, your mentor as well, Eon, and how he's progressed, and some of the other people that are here and they've progressed. And some of them don't even know how they progressed. Esther's been helping me a long time now. Well, it seems like a long time, but it's actually not that long. But through her contact with me, and she's very fortunate because she has almost a daily contact with me, she's advancing very, very fast in the practice, simply because she's practicing, she's contributing, she's doing things. People have been there. I don't see Rick today, but you see people, even Paloma's been with me a long time, Santha's been with me for a very long time, and Letty down there has been with me. And they all have a deep understanding of that, just simply because of that. I really want you to go beyond me, and it's okay. So you do what you're doing right now, and don't hang on to the words as much as use the words to as inspiration for your own practice, and you'll do fine.
Okay, I'll do
all
that.
right. And I'm again, the questions that people are bringing up today are excellent. And I'm really happy when I see that, because that means that the lecture that I gave kind of stimulated people to do that. Jane was there for a moment. What happened? She disappeared. Jane, did you have a question? There you are.
I have a question, but you just said everybody asked a good question, so I wasn't. Anyway, my question is very stupid. I was just, I'm very good at lucid dreams, and it's just my specialty. So because in a dream, and 30% of me is dreaming, is acting, but 70% of me is waiting, is watching the show, and we're just relaxing there. So I just come to my mind that can I use that that kind of experience to live this life? Like, I know it's a dream. I'm just waiting, and I'm very good at this. That's what I dreamed. Most part of my dream are like this. So I was thinking, if I can use that kind of that feeling, I know how I feel. Even the dream is terrible or maybe happy, but 70% of me are so calm. So I was thinking, can I use that kind of feeling to live this life? Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it's like it's penetrating, but it's coming through the backside of the mind. It can't get through the front side because Jane's kind of guarding the ego there. So it's coming in through the backside in a way in which, if you begin to look at the world in this way, and not just your dream, okay, not just your dream when you go to sleep, but look at the world in the same way, where you've got 30% that's participating and 70% is kind of like in reserve and is just watching. You don't use so much mind energy. Okay. People use too much mind energy engaged in their daily affairs, and their brain is burned out by the end of the day. Does that resemble anybody here? Right? And so when you don't do that, you just rest in the present moment, understanding it, and that 70% that's in reserve is the wisdom of the mind. And then so you just let it come out whenever you need to bring it out. You don't have to blast it at every single moment with wisdom, but you just rest in the moment and allow it to come, and it will come. Okay, so this is very, very good for you. There's 84,000 Dharma doors, and I don't think I've gotten to 84,000 people, maybe, of talking to them, but what works. And if that works for you, and it kind of gives you a way to be able to see that, as you do in your horizontal dream, you do in your vertical dream. Okay, and you'll be fine with it. So that's good. It's not a stupid question. Don't you guys don't ever think you're going to ask a stupid question. It is not in this way. Okay. Okay, Ruth.
So on the Mighty Networks, you said, can you see your face in the mirror? Did you mean like your physical face or the original face?
What do you think?
I don't know. But I did do a direct contemplation with my face in a mirror for like a good 20 minutes. And I noticed that it's very hard to see your face because one eye just looks and one eye doesn't look. And then your face changes and just gets distorted. So I would say that you can't really see your face because you don't really know what you're looking at. But I was looking at a physical face. So I don't know.
Ruth, that's not your face. What do you think, Sentha? Can you see your face in a mirror? Put you on. I noticed you didn't respond to it.
It's mind watching mind.
It's just mind watching mind. So there's not a physical person there. There's no dream. When you see it, when you see the world clearly, then you just see everything as mind. And so it is in this way that you understand. Just like I was telling Jane, she can do it. You don't have to go around trying to erase all of reality, but you just use a little bit of it to be clear and staying in the present moment. And with this reserve of the 70% of mind, you don't want to blast the present moment with 70% of mind. It would be like a nuclear blast to the world. I mean, if you could do it, that would be great, but it's very hard to harness that amount of energy. You know, the last person that I saw that did that was Shifu, that set into motion so much things. And, you know, this very slight man, you know, probably weighed about a $105, and he did so much. That's like 105 pounds. You know, and he did so much because he harnessed the energy of the mind. And so this is what we use. But when we look at something, we look into a mirror and we see this face, it's very interesting because it's very, very difficult to explain that, and to explain it in a way which you don't trip up with things. And so it's a very good exercise to kind of look at that and say, can you see your face, or what's the face? So what is your original face? And your original face is mine. Can you see it? And say, you can't see it, or you can't see mind everywhere. Everything is the original face of mind. Who else put it into motion? So it's very interesting. All of these are contemplation exercises to get you to begin to reevaluate the perspective and the perception, so that you begin to use the perception of mind, not the perception from the 5 skandha. And it is possible to do that. That's very important to understand. Okay. Good questions. Like I say, you guys don't think that that you have a silly question. Most of the time, your silly question is a question that other people are hesitating to ask because they're afraid it's going to be a silly question. But it's something that when we do it in the right way, it works very well. So and people will learn from that. So you actually gain great merit in asking silly questions. Okay. So the only questions that you don't get great merit is those where you know you're asking it just to show how smart you are, and or how stupid I am. So then, you know, I wouldn't walk outside. You might get hit with a lightning bolt or something. But in any case, that's kind of where we're at for the night, I guess. Okay. We will see you next week. We'll continue on with Daoxin because he